You guys, welcome back to URL versus IRL. Happy Tuesday. I hope that you're listening on a Tuesday because those are the days that we release this podcast, just in case if you were curious or you were uninformed. If you're new to URL versus IRL, welcome. I think you're going to like it here quite a bit. I'm very excited for today's episode because we are going to be talking to somebody very special, okay? And I'm telling you right now, I know that this is going to turn into a two-part episode, okay? Because the guest that I'm bringing onto this podcast today has been my best friend for my entire life, okay? And we can talk, all right? So, in this episode, I would like to do something, and that is, I would like to give you the lore. I would like to give you a little bit of background, painted picture, that kind of thing, because I think that's going to be really important to the subject that we're talking about. Now, the subject that we're supposed to be talking about is the fact that my dad is one of the most working stuntmen in the industry, okay? So, I'm excited for this podcast because I feel like I'm going to be able to get him to go to a place that a lot of other interviews that he's probably done before probably can't get him to because they're not his freaking kid, and I am. So I'm very excited for this. Let's roll the intro music and jump straight into it. I'm so excited. Grab a beverage and a snack, by the way, okay? Because this is going to be a long one. Get ready for it. Let's go. You're tuning into URL versus IRL. Hosted by Bri Lynch. Welcome to URL versus IRL, Dad.
Hey, kiddo. How you doing?
How you feeling?
I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, you are. You don't do a lot of podcasts, huh?
No, I don't normally do a podcast.
Do you have a reason for not doing podcasts?
Well, I'm usually I don't do a lot of interviews and stuff like that. I just go to work, you know what I mean?
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just been that way. I mean, I'm old school, I guess, so I'm a little bit more low-key, I guess, you know, and don't give around that much. I do have one request then.
What's that?
Because I really don't know what this guy here is.
That's a blueberry.
I feel like I'm in here with the Muppets.
The Muppets? Okay, so that's Jade the Avocado sitting right next to you. She was our OG co-host on the podcast. The first time I ever did a podcast episode with Sarah Haro, I was in Michigan with her on a job, and I happened to bring Jade the Avocado as my travel pillow. And Sarah and I realized that the two of us were holding Jade the entire time. Like, we were passing her back and forth as we were having a conversation. And I think it's because, like, it just helps you think better when you have something to do with your hands. So for some people, it, like, helps them. So now we have a bunch of fruits. Avocado's a fruit, right? It's not a vegetable?
This one's avocado.
Yeah, that's Jade the Avocado.
And then what's...
They don't have names yet. The blueberry and strawberries do not have names.
Wow. Buster over here is not tough enough for me to be hugging on to the whole world. I'm going to toss him over here on the side, give myself a little bit of space.
Well, you're going to be the first one without a thing. Oh, we have baby Jade. Do you want the baby Jade?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Sounds good. All right. Speaking of old school, how long have you been working in the industry?
I think this might be my 34th year. I'm not good at keeping dates, but this might be I think this is my 34th year in the
2024, 34th year.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, do you ever think, you don't think about that, obviously, because as you said, you don't keep a lot of dates.
Well, I think about, I've been in this business before you were born, so.
Yeah.
And I think about you being you're 27, right?
I'm 28.
Damn. I told you I'm not that good with dates anyway. Yeah, so you're 28 already, so it's crazy.
That's
Time
crazy.
is just flying.
Okay, so I know this is an extremely broad question. Can you tell us a little bit of the story of, like, how you got into the industry? Like, how did you get your first job?
Oh, wow, my first job. Well, that's a timeline answer right there.
Yeah.
The opportunity to do my first job came in a 3-part series. Right.
Okay, the lore. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, the 3-part series is this, and that is that I used to race motocross when I was younger.
First of all, hang on, Mr. Humble. You were a professional motocross racer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't just race motocross. You're talking about, I used to race motocross when I was younger. You sound like me. I used to race motocross when I was younger. You were a professional motocross racer at one point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, my younger years before I got my pro license, I was racing mini experts, etc. Blah blah blah. But the story of that is that when I was younger, in the state that I was born, I grew up in New Jersey, but you weren't able to race in New Jersey as a minor. So yeah, you'd had to travel out into the boondocks, upstate New York, Maryland, out to Pennsylvania. Everything was 2-3 hour drive, and then there were several of us, and I have an older brother and 2 sisters. So it wasn't like motocross was the thing we did every single weekend.
Right.
Motocross was the most expensive thing, and we got lucky if we got to do it once every couple of months. But my dad loved motorcycles. He really didn't know a lot about racing. He was out riding in the trails and met people, blah, 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 blah. Come here, come there. Next thing you know, one day they went to the races. Now, at that time, I was just riding like XR75s and mini trails and stuff like that. And for those people that really don't know what these are, bikes called the Rups and stuff like that. My first bike I ever had literally was a mini bike with the back brake didn't even have brake pads. It was basically a steel plate sitting against the back wheel, and you'd step on the plate, which would then slow down the back wheel.
That's not dangerous.
It didn't even have front shocks on it or the rear shocks on it. It was just,
sounds like a great time.
Like the Flintstones.
Yeah.
With a motor.
That's exactly what I was thinking of in my head.
Yeah. So that was the start of our motocross, our riding. And I was just a fair weather racer until the first time my father ever went to the racetrack. So now it was my older brother, my father, and a guy named Rufus. And we were absolutely the only black people at the racetrack.
I can imagine.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
And
you still don't see many black people in motocross today.
No, motocross is still very small to it. But that first time they ever raced, each one of them in their class basically didn't come in first place. I'd just say that. So that was at the point where I decided that this is the sports for me, because I was the been there, done that child in my family.
Because what number are you?
I am number 3 of 4.
Okay, yeah.
So I wasn't the first boy.
Nope.
I wasn't the first girl.
And you're also not the most recent.
Yeah, and I wasn't the baby.
Right.
So I was the been there, done that child, and the been there, done that child.
That's even worse than being the middle sibling, I feel like.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It is. And anybody else that knows what the been there, done that child, see. So now I had an older brother. He did music. I had an older sister that did music. And then next thing you know, I'm doing music. I'm playing a saxophone. I'm dragging this thing through the snow, 15 miles uphill every day to school. I don't even want to play this instrument, but if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So got into motocross.
Because no one else was good at it.
No one else was good at it. So I said, this is the sport for me. And that's what really drove me to it. So then I decided I wanted to race. So I was always on punishment. I was always in trouble. I was always something. I was always getting my butt beat for doing something wrong. I was actually on punishment. And I still had an XR75. So the first race was in 1979, October 21st, 1979.
That's right before your birthday.
Yeah, just before my birthday. And I was on punishment, grounded. And this was the last time this is the first track I ever went to. It's the last time this track was ever going to run, and they were closing it. So I said to my dad, I said, hey, I know I'm on punishment, blah, 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 everything else like that. I said, but look, I really want to race at this racetrack. You can put me on punishment for an additional month or whatever, whatever. I just want to race at this track because it's the track that I saw in March. So my first race, I lined up with CR80s, RM80s, all of the race bikes. And I basically, if anybody knows anything about racing, I had a trail bike. An XR75 is a bike you ride in the trails. It is not made for motocross.
No, it's not like a motocross racing bike.
So I'm racing an XR75 wearing work gloves and a pair of work boots and jeans when everybody else has on all of the motocross gear that they wore back then. I had on a pair of football pads on.
I was going to ask if you had pads on.
Yeah, well, from my dad got a set of pads from the football, but they weren't motocross, so I'm walking around with these big old pads on my shoulders, and everybody else is cruising around with the nice slim Joe for this and the face guards and the helmets, and I definitely didn't belong there, and it looked like it. So anyway, my first race, I ended up getting 3rd place.
Wow.
On an XR75.
Nice. Not even a real bike.
Yeah, it was. But at that time, it is what it was, because I had taken up the motocross pretty seriously after that. So I started really riding at that point. So my first race, I got third place on an XR75.
Holy
and that
crap.
started my motocross racing, let's say, love for motocross racing. And then down the road, my father was also a general contractor. So I worked for my dad since I was a little kid, cleaning up backyards, putting in storm windows, blah, 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 blah. And you got to remember, this is all before I was even 16 years old.
Okay.
Right? So that's how I used to make some money and pay for my stuff. And then my dad would buy the bike, but then I'd have to pay him for it. And I probably paid him for it 20 times by the time I ever got paid for it. But that's another story. So then some things happened. I finally started racing bigger bikes. I went to the mini qualifiers. It was in Reidsville, North Carolina. That's when Honda and Kawasaki and Suzuki and the Japanese bikes were making all of the pushes towards motocross, and motocross is really growing at a rapid rate at this point in America, right? So then they had all these support trucks. So when you'd be qualifying for the Nationals or qualifying for Loretta Lynn's or the Mini Olympics or something of that nature, which we really didn't know that much about because we didn't have that kind of money, but we went to this race. So we go to Reidsville, North Carolina.
Loretta's crazy. I've been there before.
Yeah, we go all the way out to Reidsville, North Carolina. The only black people I ever saw there was us. Pretty much everywhere I ever went, we were the only black people I ever saw. So we had strict things like clean up the camp, this and that, the other thing, don't leave any garbage anywhere, that kind of deal. Because everywhere we went, my dad would literally make us clean up the guy next to us location if he left stuff around, and the guy next to us. So anybody that was around us, we'd go pick up their garbage before we left.
Wait, why?
Well, part of the reason is because we were under the eyeball of many people, and we were the only ones.
You didn't want to get blamed for anything.
And we didn't need the drama.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other things that I really didn't know about at that time because I was so young that I didn't realize that we were in locations that were not very safe for us to be in.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. But that's not part of this podcast, right? So
we could get into it later.
So anyway, so now just before I turned 16, we went to this big race, and I was 15 at that time, and I had a Yamaha.
Okay.
And
blue's my favorite color.
Yeah. Well, at that time, I had the yellow one, so I had a YZ80.
Okay.
I had the good old YZ80, and it was a 1980. I think it was first year of the monolink for the 80s. Anyway, so we went to this national, and the first moto, my foot peg broke off in the third lap. Right.
What were you doing? Just hovering?
Well, yeah, just pretty much. You can't put your foot on the brake.
Yeah.
You're riding with your foot on the brake because you don't have a foot peg.
Right.
And I used to really do because my background was the BMX and all this other stuff. Because that's what I was doing before I really got to do motocross. I was crazy on a bike. Everybody in Plainfield, New Jersey knows how crazy I was on a bike. I mean, I literally used to jump over people's cars without their permission. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I used to do a lot of really big jumps on the 80s, and they weren't really made.
They're not made
for the stuff that I was doing back then.
Yeah.
So during this moto, there was a really big double that none of the kids on the 80s were doing. And I was. And I snapped my foot peg off. So now that I snapped my foot peg off, third lap, I ended up finished the race, and I got third place.
How many laps? Total?
I don't know. That probably was like a 5-6 lap race.
Okay, yeah. So you were about halfway
they had the minis
there.
doing the whole track like everybody else at that point. So then my dad's running around trying to get a foot peg.
Ain't nobody gonna help you.
Well, it's the all of the Jap manufacturers are there, right? But the foot peg wasn't the problem. It was the perch that was on the frame of my bike that was welded to the bike, so it wasn't a bolt-on part.
Oh, okay.
So you couldn't just go get another foot peg and put it on because the entire thing snapped off. So what had happened is with Kawasaki had a different system on their bike where they literally had the foot peg, the spring, and the perch that bolted onto the bike. So my dad went over to Kawasaki just before my race because we were panicking because there's nobody going to fix it. And Yamaha's like, we don't have anything to help you, sir, blah, 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 blah. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't help you because we don't have anything. And Kawasaki had this perch. So Kawasaki had this perch, and they welded it right to my bike. So literally, they welded on my bike, I was already at the gate. My dad said, go to the gate, go to the gate. I'm working on your bike, blah, blah, blah. Go to the gate, so make sure you get your pick. Go to the thing, clean out your blah, blah, blah. So I'm at the gate, and my dad runs up with my bike that just freshly got welded by one of the Kawasaki trucks.
Wow.
Right. So during the time that he was there, they're talking to him, oh, what happened? Boom, boom, and my son got boom, boom. Well, my son, and they obviously know that his son's a black kid.
Yeah.
Because my dad just so happens to be the same color.
Also black,
So now...
Shocker.
Little did I know any of this information. So the next motor comes out. I take off the gate. I mean, literally, the bike came, got on my bike, and it was within 30 seconds of the gate dropping. And we take off. Right, so I go back out there again, and in the second lap, my other foot peg breaks off.
Shut up.
Yes, the other side of the foot peg broke off.
You need to discontinue those.
Well, it was just, wear and tear. I mean, I used to
beat the bike up, yeah.
Beat the bike up, you know what I mean? And then, whatever. So the second motor came around, and here I am, and I broke the other foot peg off. So now I go through the whole moto, and I end up getting third place again anyway. And come to find out that the dudes from Kawasaki went and watched the race because they were curious about how's this black kid getting third place, I guess, without foot pegs. This was before James Stewart, if anybody knows who James Stewart is, et cetera, et cetera. This is before James Stewart was in the game and racing, or he was way younger than I was, but he was, anyway. So now Kawasaki, my dad and Kawasaki started having conversations, but we couldn't make all the races. So my dad was like, keep your results, this, that, the other. I mean, they were like, keep your results, blah, 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 blah. And they were in conversation of bringing me to California, and my dad was, well, if he's not going to California by himself,
right? Because
so
you're like
you're bringing
16.
the whole family to California, whatever. So then this happened, that happened. My parents got a divorce, some other stuff like that, blah blah blah. My dad got remarried, blah 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 blah. So my mom and dad, we weren't in the same house. These things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At this point in my life, and me and my dad had gotten into a disagreement at work. Because I used to work for my dad. And this was just before my 16th birthday. And just before my 16th birthday, they had a race coming up called the Kawasaki Race of Champions, and that's at Raceway Park. And then that year, they had changed the minors law that you could race as a minor in New Jersey. The idea was to come to Raceway Park, and we will see how he does and finish our negotiations and figure out whatever. Basically, at the point where Kawasaki was talking about making a real deal, me and my dad got into a discussion that he felt was not appropriate for me to have said. So he said, if you don't like it, then you can
GTFO.
Figure it out yourself. You can whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you're not riding that bike again until you pay me for the rest of the bike. I probably owed him $200 on a bike or something else like that. So my response is that to him basically was, okay, well, I'll never ride a bike again until I can do it the way I want to do it. So I made a decision. He made a decision. I basically had moved out at that point. My dad said I couldn't move with my mom. That's a whole nother story. Blah, blah, blah conversation. But I didn't make the race.
Did everybody else go with your mom? Or was
well, my older brother went to college.
Okay.
My older sister went with my mom. My younger sister went with my mom, and I had to stay with my dad.
Okay.
Right. And you know, my dad made me the man I am today. He did a great job. You know, at the time you didn't understand why things were being done the way they were doing, but you know, fathers usually have a pretty good idea what they see in their own kid. Yeah. And I guess he needed to make sure that I stayed in a certain line and took a certain path, and you know, it is what it is. I'm proud of the man I am today. So obviously, whatever it was the right way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, whether I thought it was at the time or not. But anyway, I never made that race.
Didn't work with Kawasaki.
I don't know who those people were that he was making the deal with. I just know that the negotiations were going on, and it never happened. So then I went from 16 years old to working 3 jobs, trying to start this, trying to get that. I got things going. I got blah, 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 blah. Down the road, I got back into motocross sometime around 1987 or 88. I got back to racing. And that,
so you took a break?
Well, I took a break, but the break I took probably was not the direction that you think it should have been in. Because the break that I took was I started street racing. You don't know about that.
Oh.
Because I had a talent on motorcycles. I spent a lot of time at the Hole up in New York. I mean, in Newark, New Jersey. I did a lot of pink slip racing.
Yeah. Yep.
Meaning you race for the pinks, for this, for that.
Yeah, for anybody that's not a automotive or motorsport person, racing for pinks, basically, when you own a vehicle, you have a pink slip for the vehicle, or at least that's what they used to call it back in the day. So when you're racing for pinks, basically whoever wins the race against each other, you get the other person's vehicle. Like, you're keeping that shit because they lost against you, is what that means.
Yeah, so the value was if I didn't have the money and I had the car, or if I didn't have the car and I had the money, or if I had the bike and I raced against you for the bike, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That was the trade-off for whatever that ended up being. So now, over the years of being from 16 to then coming back to racing motocross, I had started my own auto body business. I had went to Middlesex County Tech. I was certified welder. I had a job that was paying me $22 an hour.
Back then?
Yes. I won the VICA Olympics 2 years in a row, Vocational Industrial Certification of America.
Whoa.
For a top welder. I was going to be an underwater welder. That was my idea. I thought I wanted to do underwater welding at the time. I really didn't know anything about the stunt business at that time. I mean, I knew of stunt business in the sense of ships, Fall Guy, the Fall Guy, Chips, Starsky and Hutch, all that stuff. I was that guy. Like, literally, me and my cousin would play roles, Ponch and John.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Colt Seavers and stuff like that. So the stunt business wasn't unknown to me, but I never thought that I was going to get into it.
And you were just seeing it on TV, so like how realistic is it, really?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Never something I thought I would be doing. But anyway, I got back into motocross because I started running the streets. And
were you wearing a helmet?
Doing a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, you were wearing a helmet. It was point-to-point racing. It was just like Fast and Furious, might as well say. Right. It wasn't a drag strip. It was point-to-point. Whatever you get there, however you get there first. You get the prize.
That's like Need for Speed, the movie.
Yeah, I guess you could say that too.
Like basically Need for Speed, the movie. That's a great movie, by the way. Anybody that's listening.
Well, I just so happened to be in Need for Speed. Just in case
you want to tell them who you were? Jimmy McIntosh.
Jimmy Mac, that's right. I was Jimmy Mac in Need for Speed. That's right.
Yeah, you got a cool little cameo in Need for Speed, which is crazy because that's one of my favorite movies. Like, not even because you were in it, but like, it's just such a good movie. Like, it always has me on the edge of my seat. Anyway, continue.
You know, the funny thing about that is people saying, I can't believe you lost, blah, blah, blah. I said, dude, I was paid to lose. It's
you were getting paid for it. Shut up. So, how does motocross lead you to your first day on set?
Well, how does motocross lead my first day? So, a guy I met in motocross that saw me racing at the racetrack ends up coming to somewhere that I practice all the time with people that I knew.
Oh.
Right, so this guy's name was Roy Farfel.
Shout out Roy Farfel.
Roy Farfel got me into business.
I've known him since I was a kid.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Roy Farfel gets me into business, meaning that now he knows me, and then we started becoming friends before I knew anything about what he did, that he had anything to do with the stunt business or whatever. And what's funny is like, it's funny how all of the cards came together, because Roy knew me from the motocross track, but he didn't know me from BMX. Now, before I was back to racing motocross, I had went back to racing BMX.
Okay.
So I used to race BMX in New Jersey, and then I got my expert card racing BMX because I couldn't afford to do motocross, but I had a red line, and I went to the track, and I did blah, 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 blah.
Okay. So red line is a BMX bike, right?
Yeah.
It was like the super lightweight ones?
I still have that bike. Yes, I still have that bike at the house, the chrome one at the house.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Right,
yep.
Which is I actually used on my first movie. So anyway, the first job that Roy Farfel gives me a call for, he says, hey man, you want to do this job, blah, 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 blah. This guy is falling off a chair. And I was heavy into finishing up my career that I had stopped at 15 and a half, 16 years old. And I was working on getting my pro license. So I'm in the expert class. I get into points championships. I'm trying to get my pro license.
So you're back in motocross.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm in the motocross.
Yeah.
And the first job that he offered me was on the weekend. I was like, nah, dude, I can't do that. I'm in the points championship. I got responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. Man, I ain't doing that job. So my first job out the window, right? Second job he calls me for. He called me for another job, I don't know, a few months later. And, hey, Jammer. Like I said, he used to call me at the track. Hey, Jammer, I got this other job, man. It's doubling Spike Lee's, riding a bike. Somebody's going to open up a door. You riding a bike, flip over the door, hit the ground. So, anybody could hit the floor and roll and hit the ground, whatever. But and it's on the weekend, of course. So I'm racing. I'm in the point championship. I ain't going to that, whatever. I have no clue what value or what kind of living you can make in the stunt business at that point.
Right, because you've never done a job before.
Not even think about it. So then the third movie that comes up is a movie called New Jack City. He says, there's this job. It's riding his bike. We got to do these staircase, this, that, the other thing. We already hired several people, and everyone that's tried it has gotten hurt, and we can't shoot it.
So he's calling you now.
So, well, and the reason why he knows this is because one day, because Roy used to have his own exterminating business, right? So one day he saw me over there near where I lived in London Terrace.
Okay.
And I was on my red line. And I had done this ridiculously big jump down these stairs and crashed. And he was coming over to do some exterminating for somebody. And at that time, he had saw me before he knew that I was the dude at the motocross track.
Oh.
Right. And he literally saw me biff it off of this big ass jump. Right? Well, I turned around and went right back up the stairs and freaking came back and landed it. And he kept on going his own way, and he was heading towards the people that I know that ride the motocross that day.
Okay.
So he's like, I just seen this guy whip it and over crash,
and
blah,
he
blah, blah,
ate
blah.
shit.
And
then he got up
and then he turned around and went right back and did it, blah, blah, blah. So that's where all this linkage came together.
Okay.
And now he knows that I can fucking ride a bike.
Right.
On top of riding a motocross bike. So it's like, hey, I know you could blah, blah, blah. I said, but we hired 3 whatever guys. They can't do it. I said, they can't do it. And he said, yeah. So the challenge was nobody can do it.
Right.
And it was shooting during the weekdays.
Okay.
So that's how I got literally from my first opportunity. So he goes, okay, well, if you can do it, go ahead and meet these guys in New York, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like an audition. Because they need to make sure somebody can do it before it actually happens. So I don't have any crew. I don't have anybody else there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just literally go and meet this dude at this location. And he's going to show you what we already tried to do and the bigger gag of what we want to do.
Okay.
Right? So I go, all right. Now you got to remember, at the point where I am in my career, I'm racing motorcycles, making money every weekend, racing. I've already created my own business. I have an auto body shop. I'm probably doing 6 figures a year already. So I really didn't need the stunt business because I already created my own place. Meaning when I was doing the welding, I made enough money, but I had transferred over into also learning auto body, et cetera. Because remember, I told you I went to a Votech. So while I was doing the welding, right next door was the auto body shop. So while I was doing the welding, I watched the auto body guys do whatever they do, and I got tied into the auto body too. And then I literally created my own deal for auto body. So in between welding, then I started, as soon as I got off from my job from welding, I would go straight from there to the body shop next door to my welding place. And I said, hey, I'll come and sweep your floors for this amount of money. Right? So I worked I kept on moving to auto body shops and giving myself a raise every month. I would leave one body shop, learn everything I could from that body shop, go to another body shop closer to my house, do the same thing again, give myself a raise and say, I know how to do this, I know how to pull off fenders, blah, 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 boom, and this, that, the other thing. I said, instead of getting $10 an hour, I went to the next place. Now I get $12 an hour. I worked there for a month. Then I'd move to another place closer to my hometown, and I'd work there for a month and a half, whatever, learn whatever I could until I got to the point where I did everything up to painting a car. So now I'm working for all these body shops, and then I finally moved into my hometown, and then I brought him all these cars that I had fixed. I had this whole thing of pictures of cars that I was fixing from scratch, from this to that, and then I went in with the basic book that showed the cars, and I had 3 cars, and I said, hey, I got these 3 cars and I want to paint them. How much do you want to paint them? I'll tape it up, I'll get it ready, everything else like that. The guy would give me a price. And I said, okay, so the first car, so with this, I want to stand in the booth and watch you paint the car. paid him to do it, had the car, all he had to do was paint it. Second car, I said, look, okay. So now he's getting to see that I fixed this car, and he's like, you fixed this quarter panel? This ain't a new quarter panel? Well, I didn't have the money for new quarter panels. I'd fix direct quarter panels, and they'd look like they were brand new. So now he's like, well, you do pretty good body work. So now, next car came around. I said, look, now this one, I want you to teach me how to paint the car. I'll pay you the same amount of money. Right? So then he walked in there and he taught me how to paint the car, because I've been watching it for everybody else, but I'd never been in the booth with him.
Right.
I'd bring the car in, I'll look out the window and watch him do it, but I don't really know. Then my third car, I said, I'll do everything myself and you just correct me whenever I'm wrong. So that's how I started learning how to paint cars. So then I worked for this guy and the guy that owned the business for a very short period of time. I worked for him for 3 months, and then I got into a debate or a issue with the owner. He wasn't the owner, he was one of the main workers. And me and him got into a little thing, and I didn't really like his style. So I think our conversation ended by me saying, I'll move next door and put you out of business.
Oh, shit.
And guess what I did?
Did that.
I moved next door, subcontracting.
Oh,
I started subcontracting all my work. I worked for that other dude. I brought in all my own customers, and I subcontracted any jobs that he had. Right, so we worked out a deal over there. And then after I was there for about 6 months, I went next door to the two guys that taught me the most over there. I said, would you guys like to be subcontractors?
Shut up.
So his two main guys are now over at my body shop, subcontracting as their own bosses. So then down the road, old boy went out of business. For whatever reason he went out of business. He ended up out of business because his main two guys were no longer there.
Oh, okay. No.
Well, then this started me with the problem with the IRS. And this is where I learned all the stuff about the money that you always hear me talking about.
What?
Right.
Where the fuck is this going? Okay.
Right. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I didn't even know we were going here. So we are not even talking about the stunt industry. I'm just talking about how I kind of got into it.
Honestly, it's fine. Even if this ends up being like a 2-part episode where I do one as your like backstory and like this is who Jay Lynch is and how he got where he is, and then I do another part of like just talking about stunts, that's fucking fine with me. Keep going.
This is where I really started realizing where all the corruption was. So this guy went out of business, and when he went out of business, he claimed me for making $100,000 when
at his place.
At his place. There was a few
in 3 months.
There was a few extra zeros added to the money that I did actually make at his lot.
In 3 fucking months, he was saying that you made $100,000. I would love to make $100,000 in 3 months.
So now I'm just letting you know. So he went out of business, and then I get some stuff in the mail a couple years later saying tax evasion, back taxes, something else.
Not the situation.
Evasion. And this is where I learned. So now the business that I had already started, I had that go underground. So I could no longer work for the guy I was working for anymore because they were going to garnish my wages. And then I had started doing the stunt business also. So now as I started working more in the stunt business, and I had to leave the other shop because they were going to try to garnish my wages, and I kept on fighting the fight with the IRS. Because I didn't make the money that they said I made, right? So now I'm fighting the fight with the IRS, and I'm saying, I didn't make this money. And now the guys that work there are signing papers that say, he never made this amount of money. Because they're working over at the other shop with
Good for them, yeah.
Right? And they're saying, I never made this kind of money.
Yeah.
But the IRS is saying, okay, well, we'll check into it. We'll get back to you. 6 months, 7 months later, I'd get another bill, and the amount I owed was another $5,000, and then another $5,000, and then another $10,000, and then something else. And this went on for a couple years. So I had went underground. So now I was subcontracting for all of the auto body shops that I used to work at. Subcontracting, so I got a shop, right? I got in the shop that I did all my work in all night long because I worked all night so that I could ride during the week to practice for racing. So I needed freedom. So I created my freedom by renting out a shop, right? And I worked the shop when they were closed. So it was a shop on Route 9, and it was a used car dealer. So I rented out 2 of his bays, and I said, all day I won't even be here unless you want me to. I says, you can go buy cars at your place at the at the auctions that are dented up, and I'll work off my deal with every dented up car you do. I'll do a deal for you, and I'll fix your car. So he would go out and purposely look for wrecked cars for dirt cheap because nobody wanted to buy wrecked cars to sell.
Yeah. Still,
so he would buy cars from the auction for cheap, and then I'd fix them as part of my rent for the shop. And then I had keys to the shop. I could work all night long, and I could race and practice all day long. So that's how I kept my money coming in, right? And then I started getting a little bit better in the stunt business, and then I finally said, I got to pay these people off because I'll never be able to own anything, because sooner or later they couldn't catch up to me because I kept on changing productions. By the time production would know that I was getting garnished, they would already sent the check. You said, man, I'm working for everybody else. I'm working for Warner Bros. I'm working for Paramount. I'm working blah, blah, blah.
Shut up.
I was the king of dailies at the time.
Yeah.
So I do a daily here for this show, a daily here for that show. I used to work on New York Undercover for years.
Dailies, for anybody that doesn't know, is basically when you work one singular day on a production show or on a set, on a movie set, TV show, music video, doesn't matter. It's a singular day of work. You get a certain amount of money for a singular day of work, and that's it. And then you leave and you move to the next production is what that is. Because a lot of people on set, when they work on set, they work for multiple days or months or weeks or, however long, sometimes years to finish a show. But anyway, dailies you usually are a specialty performer that comes in, does the job that they need you to do for this singular day for them to shoot it, and then you get the hell out of there.
And speaking of the specialty, that's actually how I got in the stunt business, because there's multiple different ways to get in the business.
Yep.
But there's a thing called Taft-Hartley, and that's a special talent.
Yep.
So if you have a special talent, they can bypass the other rules for how long you have to have done this, or that you have to have 60 days of working for this or something else like that, because there's all sorts of different rules for you to get a SAG card.
Because a SAG is the union that we have. So in order for you to work a union job, I'm sure this is just like all the other jobs out in the world where there's union and then there's not union jobs. The movie industry works the same way, where there's a union. It's called SAG-AFTRA, which is Screen Actors Guild. I have no idea what the hell AFTRA stands for. Do you know what it stands for?
AFTRA was the other
union, right?
Screen Actors Guild is SAG, and then AFTRA used to be something. So I was in that too, but
yeah, it used to be two separate ones, and then they combined. So now it's SAG-AFTRA. I don't know what AFTRA stands for, but SAG is Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah, I forgot what that is. Yeah.
Basically, when you get Taft-Hartley, you would need to get Taft-Hartley to work a union job if you are a non-union member. So if they have a very specific thing that they need somebody to do, let's say, i.e. jump over a car on a red line BMX bike, and all these other guys are getting hurt, they can Taft-Hartley somebody who is a non-union member to get them to work on the union job and for it to be legal.
And they're supposed to exhaust the
options
first within the guild.
Within the union.
Getting Taft-Hartley is not an easy task.
No, it's not.
It's not like you can just say, hey, buddy, get me in tomorrow. And everybody thinks that you can just get punched in the game and all of a sudden you're working, right? Well, it's easier to possibly get in the U.S. than it is in like the U.K. and stuff. Those guys got to go through all sorts of training and certifications and blah, 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 blah. As in the U.S., if you're a professional at something, it kind of gets you past because you have experience that you really can't get taught. See, so in the UK, they have classes. They have scuba classes, and they have this class, and they have blah, blah, blah. And then for mountain climbing, and, they have different certifications that you have to pay for and then get, but they're not necessarily movie certifications. They're skill certifications.
Yeah, that's crazy when I learned about that.
For movies, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I get that question all the time where people are like, how do you become, like, a stunt driver? Do you have to, like, be certified or, like, whatever? And then when I tell them no, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, there's like classes that you can take, but technically you don't need like a certification. I don't have like a special license. I have a regular license that has points on it, by the way.
Yeah, so now the first thing is if you get into SAG, right? If you actually become a SAG member, well, there's extras as SAG members, right?
Yeah.
And then there's talent SAG members.
Yeah, now they have subcategories for what kind of member you are.
Right. But anyway, so that's how I ended up getting actually into the business. I got Taft-Hartley in the business for special abilities, and because they exhausted the system, because that's why the other guys all got hurt, because they said they could do a job and it didn't work out for them. So they went to the hospital and I went to Hollywood.
Shut the fuck up. That is the funniest shit you've ever said in my life.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. But, you know, there's a whole nother level to this, too, now. You know, there's so much to how I got to where I am. There's so many layers of life, period, that it's hard to try to squeeze it in such a small period of time. So.
That's why I want to do 2 parts of the episode. So, in stunts, as being a professional stuntman, your niche is motorsports.
Everything is the genes.
Yeah, I hate that because I get that all the time. People are like, it's in your blood. I'm like, yeah, also, but it's a lot of hard work to be able to be consistent.
You know one thing that I've never done, and I've always given you credit for hard working.
Yes,
because everybody's like, oh, it's in the genes. I was like, no.
No, it's not.
It's not in the genes because
you know how
she has worked so hard to put herself in the position that she's in because she was not a natural talent at it.
Go off. Humble beginning.
She was not a natural talent. So the truth of the matter is that there's certain things that I saw about Brianna through motocross. And that's another part of the story because we have a motocross track in my backyard.
Yeah.
So my kids grew up with a motocross track in their backyard. And we rode all the time. And there's certain skills that I saw within her.
But I wasn't even natural at motocross.
Yeah, you weren't natural.
I was not natural at motocross. I was determined.
Right.
To say the least. I was so determined, and you were out there with your stupid little video camera every single time that I was riding, trying to get me to learn what it was that I was doing wrong because I wanted to be better at it.
Everything was a lesson.
You know what's hilarious is actually in my solo episode, I recently just talked about you in my solo episode because somebody said, like, what makes you genuinely happy and how did you find it is what the question was. And I think I responded to that and I said the first thing that actually made me genuinely happy in my life was seeing my dad get excited about me doing something. And I was telling them that you were such a dedicated teacher that, like, if you want to be good at anything, you are the guy to ask for guidance. And I think it's because I realized that you're a really dedicated teacher. I know you love teaching. I think that you enjoy seeing other people progress at something when they're working hard to do it. And that's kind of how I ended up in the seat that I'm in today. Maybe not this seat of podcasting, but kind of in a sense, like I was like, everything that I fell in love with in life was because of my dad. Like I was like, because you were a super inspiring person for me when I was growing up and I was hanging around you all the time. So I was inspired by you because you were inspiring me. So that's how I ended up being passionate about the stuff that I'm passionate about. Like I got into cameras and video editing and production because the first time I ever learned how to edit was because you were having trouble editing your demo reel. So that was like why I wanted to learn how to edit was because I wanted to be able to help you because you were always helping me do other stuff. Also, same thing with like motocross. Like I got a dirt bike for my 3rd birthday and I was like, oh, my dad is having a really good time teaching me how to do this thing. And I knew how much you sacrificed for me to be in the spot that you're in so that I could grow up the way that I did. So to me, that was like the least that I could do was participate in something that you liked, you know? And then I fell in love with it because of that. Same thing with gymnastics. Like you put me in gymnastics because you wanted me to be in gymnastics. You were like, that's a really important sport. I wish that I would have been put in gymnastics. I want you to do gymnastics. So you put me in gymnastics. And then the first time that I was ever having trouble learning how to do a backflip, that was the first time I ever got frustrated with the sport. And you learned how to do a fucking backflip that day. And then you brought me outside and taught me how to do a fucking backflip on the trampoline.
When did I buy you that trampoline?
Oh, God.
Was that your fourth birthday?
My 5th birthday.
5th birthday.
That was my 5th birthday.
Yeah, because I bought your motorcycle on your 3rd, then I bought you your quad on your 4th.
No, quad on my 6th birthday.
6th.
Yeah, so it was motorcycle, trampoline, quad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember those were some really big ones. I also remember the one time where you bought me that little like what is it, the little electric cars or whatever, but you had it in that box, I think, and you like it like drove out of the box and I was like, what the hell?
That's right, yeah. That's when they first started making electric go-karts.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So anyway, so like we were saying, you started off as the been there, done that kid, got into racing motocross because you were the only one that was good at racing motocross. Then you had to take a break from motocross, got back into BMX. You met Roy Farfel because of riding BMX, in a sense, because he watched you eat shit and get right back up and do it again. Mm-hmm. And then, how does Roy Farfel come into play in this?
Yeah, and then Roy Farfel is the one that offered me my first 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy that knew me. and he was in the business, and I really didn't know jack about the business. And then here this opportunity comes to get into this movie called New Jack City. I don't want to forget to come back to this, because I'll come back to the other piece of the New Jack City thing.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do want to address is that your position in the business.
Mine.
Okay, so you were talking about not being a natural at anything.
Yes, yeah.
But the thing that I base mostly my whole life off what I'm a professional at, what I know, right? So that's how I bounced off and figured out how to do everything, because I had applied everything I knew from working hard as I had to work to become the guy that I became racing motorcycles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was never a team sports person, and I still am not today. I'll do individual sports. I'll watch some racing or something like that, but I don't do team sports because it's just not my thing. You, in turn, I applied all the stuff that I would ever teach you want to learn to my being good at something. And I applied that motocross versus my life kind of deal. Effort. In motocross, you have to be responsible for your mistakes, regardless if it's somebody else, because realistically, you pay for it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've had some pretty hellacious crashes as I was turning pro, as I was an amateur, as I was anything else like that. And you can blame everybody else for why you're laying in the dirt with a broken femur, broken collarbone, because I've had them all. Broken femur, broken collarbone, broken nose,
Didn't you break your femur more than once?
Broken femurs twice.
Yeah.
Split tibia. So
torn rotator cuff.
Torn rotator cuffs. After all these accidents, you can always blame the other guy. But where is it that you're to blame? You know what I mean? Because you're in control of that motorcycle. You're the one riding it. You're the one riding next to the guy that just slammed on the brakes, that didn't do the jump, and you assumed he was going to do it. Mm-hmm. So you have to position yourself to put yourself in another position so that that doesn't happen, or you have to take accountability for your part in it. Mm-hmm. So it makes you very responsible for what happens to you.
Yep.
Your destiny is realistically in your own hands.
Yeah.
And I moved that to every single thing I did. So I learned how to blame myself. Even though that guy did this, what could I have done to not have this happen? Right? So I became very responsible with that. But on top of that, so now when you started wanting to learn how to do a flip, I just said, okay, well, what do you have to do a flip? Okay, mentally, this, that, the other thing, and I could dissect and then apply and then information and then whatever. So now when it came to you, you were not natural, but the difference between you and, let's just say, your brother was a natural at everything.
Oh my God, you guys.
He was a natural at everything.
My younger brother was good at everything. Better than me, faster than me, and 4 years younger than me. Okay? He was good at anything that you put in his hands quick. Me, on the other hand, I was like, how do I turn this thing on again?
Yeah. So the main thing that I learned from you, from watching you, because I'd ride behind each one of them, I'd watch what they were doing, I'd videotape it, I'd come in the house, I'd put it on the TV, who's watching it, who's not watching it.
You were familiar with that damn HDMI cable, I'll tell you what.
So the one thing that Brianna had, more than anything, was determination. Literally, we could go out and go riding, and I put a helmet on her head, and she would ride all effing day.
Yeah.
Never quit. Don't come in to eat. Don't come in to take a break. Don't blah, blah, blah. Just keep on trying and trying and trying and trying and trying over and over again. I'd say something and you could actually see her trying to apply the information. I'd say, try this. She'd go out and you could see her doing it. She might not have got it the first time, the second time, the fifth time, the 20th time, but she continued to try. Then after she got better, then I'd go out on the track and I'd chase her around. I said, look, I'm faster than you. You have to make me work for it. So that means you have to be smart. It's not just riding, it's thinking. You have to apply this information. Where is it that it's going to be harder for me to pass you? Inside or outside? If you slow down here or blah, 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 or I have to ride twice as fast to do this if I have to pass you on the outside, whatever. So then I'd get her on the bike and then we'd go through the corners and she would make me work everywhere on the track. So then at the point where I started realizing she's applying all this information, she knows where to go to the inside, where to go to the outside, where to block me so that I can't pass her, where to get in the way. Then I started trying to unnerve her by ramming into the back of her quad.
Yeah.
I used to literally run into the back of her bike.
It was tire to tire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd literally we're going into a corner and she'd be on her quad and I'd run into the back with, and then she wouldn't go faster than she was capable of going.
Just be in the way.
She wouldn't go faster than she was capable of going, but she under pressure was better than when she was doing it on her own.
Yup.
So I then said, wow, she can really take the pressure. She is capable of keeping her cool and not riding above her talent, and she actually is better under pressure than she is when she's not. So that's when you turned 18, and I said, there's something I think you might actually be good at, and that's when we started driving. Mm-hmm. You know, and then when we started driving, I didn't say, I'm going to make you a stunt driver. I said, let's just go out and drive.
Yeah.
And then I said, and if you actually might be good at it, then I might be able to do something with it.
Yeah.
And our first day out was not fun.
Segueing back to you a little. So your first job that you did was a BMX job.
Yeah.
And then did you start doing motorcycle jobs after that?
I started doing, I guess I got called. Then would get called for, well, my next job wasn't a motorcycle job. It was just filling in the spot because they needed a bunch of people. Then I got into a mini brawl with the biggest stunt coordinator in New York on my second show. So things didn't necessarily, go too smoothly for that. And
right. You've been getting into a lot
I didn't make a real good name for myself in the business because my second show, I was on the ground in a scuffle with the stunt coordinator.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and I had a few choice lines, something like, fuck all of y'all, I don't need this shit. Now, when I say that, you have to remember, I was a professional at something already. And I had my own business already. Yeah. And I was successful at several different things in my life already.
So you really didn't need them.
So I really didn't need to be doing stunts for a living, right? So I didn't have the same approach as a lot of other people that were just so happy to get this opportunity of blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I was an I'm not taking none of your bullshit person because I didn't get where I was going. I haven't got where I am in any sport that I'm doing or in business by being the guy that is just kissing anyone's ass on the way. Yeah. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. I was pretty determined and set and focused on whatever it is that I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't influenced by other people's funds, money, how much they made or anything else like that. So I was kind of a tough guy they kind of tried to introduce me into the stunt business because the first show I went in the Taft-Hartley, so I was definitely necessary. Yeah. So nobody effed with me. Yeah. But my second show was kind of like, how they haze you into something, and then they pull the jokes on you and they make you do stuff like
because you're the new guy.
Shit. Yeah, they tried the new guy shit on me on the second show I ever worked on, and the new guy ended up
on the ground with the stunt
coordinator. And there's some things that people didn't know, like Dad was a martial arts teacher. Yeah. And I was in his class. Yeah. So those kind of situations kind of came about. So I didn't really have a smooth, easy entry into the stunt business as a whole, where everybody started saying, this is the guy. They were like, there's only a few people that knew what I could do, and it got squashed super quick. So there's very few people that boom, boom, boom. And it was an uphill battle for quite a while.
Damn. How long do you feel like it took you to have consistent work in the stunt industry? Like, how long do you think it took you to really get in?
Well,
and to make that your living?
I will be honest with you to say that I've never felt at home in this business until I actually was doing that movie Need for Speed. So 20 plus years, I never felt like I belonged. So anybody out there that thinks that it's so easy to just walk into something and feel like this is where I'm supposed to be, I've always, always like watching my back and checking where I am and double checking and making sure that this and that and the other thing and walking on the eggshells and just making sure that I wasn't stepping on anyone's toes and stuff like that. But I finally did a job that I was working on Need for Speed and Captain America at the same time. So I've been in the business almost 20 years.
I was in high school when you did that.
Yeah, I've been in the business for almost 20 years. And so this is a very fine line here. And that goes in every single portion of whatever you're doing. Know when you're working for people and know when you're working with people. I've said that to you many a times.
Yep.
Some people you work for, so go over there and shut up and you work for them.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then you can go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
This is my show. This is how I run it. You do it the way I tell you to do it. And then there's people you work with. Well, of course, you have to build and establish a relationship with people over years and confidence and everything else like that. It doesn't matter how good you are. It's how good they know you are. When they build the respect for you, when they get to the point where they're like, that dude knows what he's doing, or that girl knows what she's doing, and that comes in time, and people want instant gratification. Oh, I'm so good at this, I'm so good at that, blah, 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 and that has nothing to do with it. Another thing about the stunt business is that there's massive talent out here. I might be talking to you. There's so much talent out here now. And then you have social media that you can get on Instagram and you can post all of the talent you have. You have to understand that the business does not necessarily need all of your talent.
Yep.
Okay? So, I'm crazy, I could do this and that, and all this other stuff is what so many people think of the stunt industry about. They're a bunch of crazy people. Ooh. And that is absolutely not
true.
What they need. There's liability involved.
Yep.
On the regular basis.
Yep.
Right? So let's just say you were amazing on a motorcycle and you've been doing all these videos on social media, wheeling up and down between the blocks, everything else like that. Well, when we get to a movie set, massive insurance is involved here.
Yeah, you can't be doing 60 miles an hour doing a wheelie. Down the street. There's a cameraman down there.
What's the shot necessary to do this shot? Okay. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It matters how fast the vehicle that can capture the information can go.
Correct.
Right? There's so many levels of the stunt industry that people really don't understand. And they just think, I'm fucking crazy and I could do all that shit and I could do anything and these guys do and everything else like that. So not really having respect for the craft because they really don't understand it. It just takes years and years and years to get to that level of understanding. Or also to get into the level of other people understanding. I've actually gotten jobs from people that actually don't even like me. Because there are people that don't like me, right? For multiple reasons, they don't like me.
Well, I mean, you were getting on the ground with the stunt coordinator at one point.
Everybody ain't going to like you.
Yeah.
That's number one, right? But the fact that everybody's not going to like you doesn't mean that you should not build on respect. You see what I mean? I'm more of someone respecting me for what I know and what I do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, than I am really concerned with you liking me anyway, right? So, however I got into that conversation, wherever I went with that, I just got blanked out because I was thinking
It's okay. I have
else
another
too.
question.
Yeah.
So, your very beginning of your stunt career was a little bit of a rough start.
Oh, really a rough start.
Well, a big rough start.
Yeah.
You didn't chase it, though.
What, the business?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't chase it, but I did, and that's a whole nother level of something going on.
Okay.
Right? Because if I go after that, then if you found out the motivation of why I really did chase this business. When I first started this business, it was, it's all good. I'll do it when I do it. But the real motivation for me to be successful in this business is what I'm looking at right now. Because I had all the time in the world to do everything until I had you. And then all of a sudden, everything had changed. If I got a book down there that was my daily planner. That's when I used to be able to actually put stuff in a book and make a schedule. You know how you say I never have a schedule?
Yeah, I literally asked you what your calendar looked like earlier, and it was blank.
And I have a blank calendar.
For months, but you've been busy every day of every month.
But the writing is powerful. Whoever's out there, you got things that you want to do, write it down.
Yeah,
I believe that. Write it down, make it a reality, mentally process this information by writing it. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a diary or it's not a diary.
No, but it's intentional.
Right. See, women write things down, but men don't. Right? A lot. I don't write much stuff down, but there's a point where I unlocked a certain thing in my head because I had a lot of things going on. And I started writing, and it starts in that book right there. Right? All of a sudden, one day I started writing. And this literally was just before you were born. You weren't even thought of when I started writing. Right? So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start writing now because I've got a daughter. I would say probably about a year before you were ever born, one day I just started writing stuff, and it's in that book.
Oh, wow.
And it's in that book. What I thought about this, what I thought about that, what I thought of responsibilities, what I thought about having kids, what I thought about parents that blame everybody else for their rotten kid, and age, time, to what age you're responsible for whatever that, and then by the time you get to this age, blah, blah, it's all, I've written a lot of stuff down in that little folder right there, right? But my main drive to succeed in this business absolutely was your fault.
Right.
Because before that, I had all the time in the world, and I actually didn't think I'd make it past 25 years old anyway in the life that I was living. So that brings me back to another story about the New Jack City deal. And that brings me back to another story about when I used to run the streets and I was getting pinks and I was getting cars and I was fixing and then I was selling them and then blah, 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 and having my own business and everything else like that, is that there's one person that literally changed my life. And that was Ice-T. Crazy. So you want to meet this guy? You want to meet that guy? I want to meet Muhammad Ali. I want to meet the president. I wanted to meet Ice-T. So the deal is that I was getting into a lot of
trouble
stuff that I didn't necessarily do. And I listened to Ice-T's first tape. Now, that's back in the day when we had cassettes. You see what I'm saying?
Do you have a Walkman or some shit?
Walkmans were just coming in at that time, but we literally had cassettes. Yeah. Right? So, remember in that book that I showed you, my book that I walked around with the main focus and reasons of why I did stuff? Yeah. And you were in that book? And in that book is Ice-T. Because Ice-T literally saved my life. Ice-T literally made me think through his music, because Ice-T's older than I am, right? So by the time he wrote what he wrote and made his music, he was the same age I was at that point. Oh. So literally we're at the same crossroads of, he had the crime rhyme, right? He didn't tell you what was right or wrong, or et cetera, but he basically told you where this life was going to lead. And I had realized that I am not that guy. And if I keep going in this direction, this is the end.
Oh, because he was talking about the stuff that you were getting into.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I didn't have nothing to do with any drugs, but I told you statutes and limitations. There's a few things out there that, you know what I'm saying. Ice-T changed my life. Yeah. Literally changed my direction. Made me get off the streets and go back to racing motocross. Oh. He made me go back to doing what I love to do because I had so much energy that I needed to do something. And since I wasn't street racing anymore, I needed to get back to something that was going to take that energy that I had and use it to a positive thing. That's why I went back to racing.
Oh,
so you see
shit.
the circle that I'm saying here is that his music literally changed my direction in the path that I was going in, moved me back to doing what I loved to do, which was race and ride and get me off the streets. And now the first movie that I'm working on is New Jack City. Now here's the story about New Jack City. So I get the audition, I go do the deal, right? My first day on set, I have no idea who's in this movie. No idea. I don't know nothing about a call sheet. They've called me on the phone and told me what time I'm supposed to be at this location.
Oh, shut up.
All right, I'm using my bike. I'm supposed to be doing this whole staircase thing. Remember that place I showed you when we were driving one time in New York? That's where I started my business, right near Yankee Stadium, the overpass going over that's not the FDR Drive. I don't know which fucking highway.
Near a bridge.
Yeah, but it's over. Yeah, so anyway, it's this big scene where the bike's going down the stairs to the train tracks and Chris Rock is riding the bike. I didn't even know who Chris Rock was. But the hurry up and wait of the movie industry is this.
Yeah.
So my first job, I put on his wardrobe. I don't know anybody Chris Rock. I don't care who Chris Rock is or anything else like that. I'm sitting on my bike, getting ready to do this big stunt, go down these stairs, right? The stairs that no one can make it down. Mm-hmm. And the stunt guy that's doubling the lead guy that's going to be chasing me is there. So we're just kind of hanging out. I'm sitting on my bike, and I'm sitting on my bike 15 minutes, 20 minutes go by, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, what the hell's going on? We're waiting for a helicopter and everything else like that. So I'm just sitting here. And then I hear this voice in the background. Like, what is that? That sounds familiar. So I purposely didn't turn around because I was like, that guy sounds super familiar. Who is that? And there's this guy talking in the background, talking to somebody else and talking to them, starting to tune into their conversation. But I'm not turning around because I think I know who that is. And then this guy asked him a question, and I knew what the next word out of his mouth was, fuck that. And I was like, oh, shit, that's Ice-T. The one guy that I always wanted to meet my whole life, and I said, that's fucking Ice-T. I turned around on my bike, and I was like, oh. And I literally sat on my bike, and I've never been starstruck. My hairs are going in the back of my head right now.
Yeah.
And I'm right there. And I was on my bike, and I was like this. Oh, shit. Ice-T back there. Right? So I was done. I didn't even know he was, I didn't know why he was there or nothing else like that. I just knew that Ice-T was standing right there. Well, now Ice-T is sitting in a chair. It's a director's chair. You know the chairs that they have the blah, blah, blah in.
Shut the fuck up.
So Ice-T's sitting in a chair back here. Well, I don't know anything about what the director's chairs look like or anything. I'm first day on a movie.
You don't even have a call sheet.
I don't even have a call sheet. I'm just wearing a pair of clothes with that black hat on, a black dungaree jacket, sitting on my bike in New York City, and Ice-T is sitting in a chair right behind me like this, talking to somebody. He was like leaning back in the chair, some shit like this, just talking to some other dude. And this dude was asking a question, was sitting in a chair next to him. And I'm not even picking up, realizing that he's working on this fucking movie. I'm like, what the fuck is Ice-T doing here? The fuck? Right? So I'm trying to get my grip. And see, I've listened to enough of Ice-T's music now. I've done listen to about 2 or 3 albums, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like I listen to enough music that I know that he don't like no fans coming up and kissing his ass.
Yeah.
He's a regular dude. He's like, because he makes fun of some of it in his music.
Yeah.
So by knowing him, because I knew him, because I listened to every fucking thing he was putting out. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I need to get a grip. I said, get a grip. He says you could just walk up to him talking like a regular motherfucking person. So guess what? You got to get a grip. So I got a grip. And then I just kind of rolled my bike over there. And I was like, yo, what up, Ice? He's like, yeah, man, what's up, bub? Boom, right? I'm meeting my hero, in a sense. Mentally, this dude has changed my life, changed the direction of my life. And now I'm in the movie industry. He moved me from the streets back to the track. The track got me to the business. The business got me on my first job, and motherfucking Ice-T is sitting right behind me, and
on your
he's
first
working
job.
on the movie. He's the guy chasing me down the steps. I'm like, oh shit. So you see how God works? It's like everything, he's put all these pieces in years ahead of things. Me getting introduced to that album when he knew I needed to change my path.
Yep.
And literally, that dude changed my life. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Damn.
Right. So now, well, Ice-T follows me on Instagram.
Shut the fuck up.
As crazy as that shit is, because, you know, then I ended up so now I work on this show, and I kind of stuck around him a little bit more than I should have. I followed him everywhere. You know, he didn't really know that much about me, but then down the couple years down the line, I was working on New York Undercover, and they started bringing him in special guest stuff. And so then I ended up doubling them. Then I doubled him on one show, then I doubled him on another show, then I doubled him on another show, and then his right-hand man was Shawnee Sean, right? So Shawnee Sean was always there, you know, handling everything for Ice, whatever. And I had told Shawnee the story. I was like, yo, dude, that motherfucker changed my life. Like, man, just fucking tell him, right? Whatever, you know. I said, nah, I keep it cool because, you know, I didn't listen to his tapes. I want to go over there saying, hey, yeah, you saved my life or nothing like that. Yeah. Right? So anyway, then me and Ice got to be cool over the years of doing the New York Undercover. And that was right around the time. So now you were born by now.
Okay.
And I already had always said I wanted to go to L.A. So he said, look, I got a series going in L.A. It's starting on this date. If you're there, you got it. So you'll be my stunt man. Now, the fucking Ice-T is 8 inches taller than me.
That's a big difference. Yeah. First of all, so anybody that's listening that doesn't understand the impact of that statement, normally when you're stunt doubling for somebody, you have to be similar size, similar height, similar weight, similar everything. Skin tone, hair length, all the shit. Okay, you got to be like the same as the other person because you're doubling them. So you want to look like them on camera when you have their clothes on, all the other stuff. You don't want the audience to know that is not them doing the thing. So 8-inch difference is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I just got to be like 8 inches taller than me. I was going to California one way or another anyway.
Yes, yeah.
But I was already going to California, then you showed up.
Because you said I also changed the direction of your life. So let's hear about that.
Right. Well, you know, I started doing the showbiz stuff and all that other stuff, and I was working. It's all fun and games and whatever. But of course, I wanted to go to California for the racing. Mm-hmm. That was part of my deal from before. I always wanted to get out to California for the racing, so that was one of the number one things to do. And the other thing was that I wanted to get out to California because I got tired of being the third or fourth one on the call sheet. So now when you say that, what happens is back in the day, it's still pretty much true now. All of the big movies come out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
All right. So now the one thing you've heard me say before is never let your location define your destination. Mm-hmm. Okay. So everybody out there that thinks social media is going to solve all your fucking problems, sorry. Don't let your location define your destination. So you think that, and don't get me wrong, it brings a lot of opportunities. Social media does because people get to see you that would have never saw you. But the truth of the matter is that if your talent is needed in East Bumblefuck, then you might need to go to East Bumblefuck to be recognized for your talent, right? And if you just stay in wherever you are, your talent may never be recognized because you're depending on social media to get you noticed, and that might not be the person that noticed you. The person that noticed you might be the person that was walking by when you did this jump and ate shit.
Yeah, right, Farfel.
And then sees you get back up and do it again.
Yep.
And be successful at it, right? So that's all I'm saying is that you need to possibly move yourself into a location that you have a better chance of being recognized for whatever the talent is that you believe that you have. So going forward, like I said, don't let your location define your destination.
And so for you, your new location
had to be California.
Yeah.
Right. And then here's the other thing. So now once I had you, I had to do better. Mm-hmm. So now you got to remember, I'm making 6 figures already, auto body shop.
Yeah.
I bought a house. I should be happy. I'm one of the most working dudes in New York. Right?
In the stunt business.
Mm-hmm. I should be happy. Wasn't good enough. I said, okay, well, here's the deal. the opportunities, I can either do this now, meaning going to California and getting myself established, because what happens when a job comes to New York is the main coordinator comes from California with the production.
Yeah.
Then they come to New York, and then they get someone as a stunt coordinator that knows the people to hire in New York, because you have to hire locals. So the guy from California brings his crew of guys, whether it's 10 guys, 2 guys, 5 guys, whatever he needs to absolutely minimum that he needs to get his job done, because he really doesn't know anyone in New York that actually has the talent.
Right.
He then has to get a coordinator from New York that then helps him hire locals, because he couldn't bring the rest of the guys. So once it comes down to a job in New York, A, it's not a main actor. B, it's an ND spot of some sort.
ND is nondescript, by the way.
Nondescript spot, right? Meaning that guy gets pushed over the bar. He's in a group of people, whatever. Yeah. It's usually not the talent double.
Yeah, okay. You're just around talent.
So first coordinator, now you're not number one from the first coordinator. Second coordinator, hopefully you become number one, but if he doesn't know you, then he's got to call people and ask around. So now at minimum, the earliest I'm going to get a job, if the next guy that stunt coordinator calls, do you know a black guy that can ride a bike? And then he goes, no, but let me ask somebody. Now I'm the fifth guy. You see what I'm saying? So I decided that I was no longer going to be the fourth guy on the list or the fifth guy on the list. And then when I tried to leave, everybody knew, oh, you shouldn't leave. We need you here, blah, blah, blah. I only get called for the fucking hard jobs. I only get called for the jobs you ain't going to give your friend, because you know he's going to get racked. Right? So I'm out of here. I'm going to go to L.A. and I'm going to become the number one guy on the call sheet and not hopefully end up being number 5 on the call sheet. So I had to go to L.A. to really be able to capitalize in the business that we're in right now.
And this was in like 1996, 97?
And this was, yeah. Well, I went to California right after you turned 1 year old. So you had your first year birthday. I got the house all fixed up for you and your mom, and I went to California right after your first birthday.
What made you decide that was like the now or never time?
Because the deal is that I could either do it now in the years you wouldn't know I was gone, so that later when you got older that I could then put you in the position that you're in now.
Wow.
So that's how far ahead that I thought of when do I have to do whatever. And then the opportunity also came with the show. After I had made that decision that once you turn 1, I have to go, right? And then I also had a 3-week minimum. So many people don't realize the sacrifices that you have to take in the industry. Oh, it's all glamour. You're doing all this and you're doing all that. And it's not fucking glamorous job. Right?
Yep.
People
can't wait
think
to get
this
into
is some
that.
easy shit, and this is not easy, especially when you have a family.
Yep.
All right. So at the point where I went to LA, I had because I read some article that it literally takes a month for people to adjust to change. Mentally, you're adjusting. It doesn't mean you have accepted. It's not a final blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're clean.
But it literally takes, back and then, the statistic was a month. So I had a 3-week deal that basically I didn't spend over 3 weeks from the house before I came back.
Oh.
So that's why I would always come back and go and come back and go. So if I went to California for 3 weeks, I came back home for 3 weeks. And then I go to California for 3 weeks, and then I'd come back home for 3 weeks. So that's why I was going back and forth to California all the time. And I never missed a birthday.
No, you never did.
Which is fucking hard in this business.
I think my first birthday that you missed, maybe when I was like 25 or 26.
Yeah, the first birthday I ever missed was your brother's birthday.
Yeah.
So every fucking job, any job that worked me through your birthday, if it was going through a birthday, I can't do it. I literally almost got fired from a show because I told him, look, this is my kid's birthday. I'm not going to fucking be here. And then they tried to fire me. And that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. Don't
worry, we'll get into that in part 2.
I wouldn't take jobs out the country Andy Gill, Jack Gill, they try to get me to do jobs all the time. And I'm like, I can't do it. It's more than 3 weeks. I can't do it. I got tricked into doing Fast and Furious 6. Fast and Furious. No, Fast 6. Andy Gill got me a good one. He goes, hey, I need you out here in London. And he's tried to hire me so many times on other shows. He's taken care of me so many years. Hey, I got a job for you in London, blah, 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 this, that, the other thing, boom, boom. I said, okay. And,
he knows your 3-week rule by this point.
He knows that I don't do shows out of the country or anything like that because I'm always coming. So now he sets up my ticket, everything else like that. And it's a month or so. So, okay, I can do a month or whatever. But I get the ticket, and the ticket shows me coming back in 3 months. Right? And he goes, and I try to call him. He don't call me back. And he goes, hey, whenever you're ready to leave, I'll figure out the rest. He says, whenever you're ready, just tell me, and I'll figure the rest out. So then that's when I had you guys come out to Greenland and blah, 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 because I said, okay, I'll start work on the show. We'll get to this location. That'll be a month. That was the longest I've ever worked on a location job. And then I'll bring you guys out there. And then you guys stayed out there for 2 weeks or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yep, that was my first long out-of-the-country job ever. I had done other jobs, but nothing that would keep me over 3 weeks.
Wow.
So it was very hard it was hard because when you keep turning people down, you hope that they call you back.
Of course.
In this business, like, oh, this guy's always turning me down. I won't even call him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I get nervous about that all the time. I'm like, if I leave somebody stuck because I said no, I don't know if they're going to call me back.
Yeah. Well, before you were born, I did a new Money Train. So that job, I could stay away. I stayed away from Money Train because I was in L.A. That was my first real long show in L.A. But you weren't even around at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, Money Train was just before you were even thought of. So
I want to jump into talking about work, but I feel like we should maybe do that in part 2.
Okay. Yeah, this is
I feel like this was a great get to know you session.
Yeah.
So that the audience knows exactly who they're listening to. Mm-hmm. Because this is not necessarily Googleable information. But I feel like it provides the backstory that we absolutely need.
Okay, well, if we're going to go to the next segment or something...
Yeah, we're going to jump into part 2 in a second.
Let me read to you. This book has been around...
Oh, shit. Dad about to do the outro.
Since the beginning. Now, I've gone.
Yeah.
And I'm having a really hard time. So, I guess I could probably just give you a brief part of whatever. When I went to California, first thing that happened was... my car got lost in transit. And my car was supposed to be coming so you guys could come to California.
Oh, shit.
Right. So first I went to California and I had nowhere to live. I was sleeping in a fucking rental car. Uh-huh. I slept in a rental car trying to find an apartment so that I could get you and your mom out there ASAP. Mm-hmm. Right. So now I said, look, send my bike out there. I'm going to find an apartment. I don't know where I'm going to find this apartment or nothing else like that, but I had to be there by a certain date to be on the time for this other fucking show to start, right? I'm shipping my motorcycle out there, blah, 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 this to the other thing. So I shipped my Tony Robbins entire CDs on how to do, the Tony Robbins CDs that are supposed to help motivate you into making good decisions and stuff. I bought this whole CD packet of motivating, blah, 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 Tony Robbins shit. I never, ever, ever, ever got to use it, right?
Damn.
So I put this in the car. I put tools in the car. I put some other stunt gear in the car. I shipped the car to California. I get on an airplane. I land in California. I have a budget. I have a budget of $10,000. And if I don't make it in California for $10,000, that's it, I'm coming back. Because all the rest of the money in my savings is for you guys, you and your mom, and the house, paying the bills, and my budget. So I have a do not touch budget. Mm-hmm. I got a $10,000 make it or fucking break it to California. So now I fly out to California. I'm shipping my car in California. I'm shipping my motorcycle in California. My car gets lost in transit. You guys are coming in a month and a half or something. My car gets lost in transit. Nobody knows where the fuck it is. Nobody knows where my car is for a month.
Oh, shit.
Right? My car doesn't show up. My bike does show up. I get my bike. Now I got my bike. Now I can. So I've been renting a rental car. It's going through my fucking budget. I haven't found I finally found an apartment. Right? So now I'm pay for an apartment. I'm no longer sleeping in a fucking rental car. When I first got there, it was some big convention, so the prices, all the cars, rental cars, were ridiculous because there wasn't any cars around because there was some big convention going on in California. So all this is sucking through my money. The car is missing. The motorcycle shows up. Now I'm hustling, running around. That's where I started hanging out with Mike Lee, right? My bike is there for a week, and somebody steals my fucking bike.
No shit.
So they steal my street bike. Right from the apartment that I just got for you guys to come to. You guys are coming into town. There's nothing to drive. So now I've got to rent a car. You got to remember, I only have $10,000. That's my limit. So once I go through this $10,000, now I had to put my other motorcycle in another crate, and my brother took it and dropped it off. Now my other motorcycle's coming to California. I still don't know where the fuck my car is, right? And you guys are coming. So now I'm renting a car. They come to California. They stay. I'm renting a car. I'm renting an apartment. My other motorcycle's coming. My fucking funds are depleting, blah, 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 blah. And I'm really in a bad place at this point where the fuck is all my stuff? But when finally you guys leave, you're there for like 3 weeks. Then you guys go back because your mom, I found a place where your mom could walk to the fucking Vons. It's right off a pass. Right near your school.
That's where I went to school.
Right, so you remember
that's
where
I went to college.
The Bank of America and the Vons is on Pass.
Yeah, this is in Burbank, California.
Right behind the bank and Vons on that side of the highway is the apartments that we used to live in.
I remember, you showed me.
So I had gotten a real nice
right next
apartment.
to the freeway entrance, right?
Yeah, I got a real nice apartment, swimming pool in front, all the other shit.
Yeah.
It was costing me a fucking grip, but I had to get a nice place because that you guys were coming. So I'm going through all this fucking money. You guys finally leave. Then my car shows up. Everything in my car is missing. All my Tony Robbins CDs are all gone. All my tools are fucking gone out of it. Boom, boom. My car's got some ridiculous amount of fucking miles on, like somebody been driving it. So here we are at this point, and now I'm missing time with you because I ain't fucking working. And if I came here to work, I didn't come here to do nothing else, right? So where was I? Okay, I can't, Bri. The most important thing to me in the world. Sorry I couldn't be there, baby. The time I haven't seen my daughter now has been too long. Every time I sit in this fucking room without her, it drives me nuts. Wow. It's like I was there right now. Sorry. I say to myself, I'm wasting precious time. I could be with Bri. Before Bri was born, I had all the time in the world. I could do anything. Now, I've got no time. Only thing that I have to do is get my goals accomplished. My goal is Bri, and that means doing everything I can to possibly do to make her life better than mine was. The last session I wrote, I stopped because I reread what I had written and broke down crying because I never heard my own pain before. Wow, this is years. As I sit here with a tear inside of my eye, I'm trying to focus again on what I must do internally, fighting at this moment to go on and not focus on home. But home is my focus. That's what I'm here for. I came here to do good. I'm here to do the best that I can for my family and to do the best I can for my future, Brianna. I just realized that my best is being the best, not being good. What a waste. I should know by now that being one of the best is bullshit. I never liked being one of the best. I've settled for it. We can't afford for me to be one of the best, so therefore, I'm failing her. Everybody keeps telling me how good of a job I'm doing, how much better than so many others I'm doing. Don't be so hard on myself. Damn that, because they're settling for whatever. I don't measure my abilities against anybody else that isn't doing as well as I am. When most people look and see or go to another person's home or business and see nicer things, I don't know what these people are thinking, but I know what I'm thinking. How come I haven't provided for my daughter what this guy has done for his? What the heck am I doing wrong? When am I going to get it together? I am the best, not at what I do, but anything that I put my mind to. How come I keep coming up short? My focus at times is so intense that it's impenetrable. How come I can't maintain this focus? Why am I a joke? How come I can't stay serious, focused? Why do I have to be noticed? First of all, I have to say I can. So now I can. Great, now that that's over with, being noticed will come in time. They won't have any way of not noticing when I am the best. They will all recognize me for what I've done and also what I'm capable of doing, because I am limitless. The sooner I get back on track, the sooner I can provide more for Bri's future. At times of stress, I'm so scared for my daughter. I have to create opportunities that less unfortunate children get because of my poor planning. I have very little time to get this right. I spoke to her today on a speakerphone at home, and her mom told me that Bri was looking around the house behind the furniture looking for me. And she heard my voice. And all I could feel is emptiness for her, because it must have been so cruel of her to hear me and not realize that that I'm not hiding somewhere and getting ready to jump out from behind the door to give her a big hug and kiss and tell her that I love her. So now I'm crying again. I promise I won't do that again. No more speaker calls. I got work to do.
Damn, I'm about to start crying. Wow.
Yep. But yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. I was like, I remember that day distinctly. I literally, she was like, oh, she's looking beat. Because, we used to play peekaboo and stuff like that at the house, or running around, hiding places and jumping out from shit. And then now I'm not nowhere around. So you were looking around behind the furniture for me. And I was like, I'll never fucking do that again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, everybody says, oh, you travel everywhere. You're all over the world. You're doing this job here and that job. It must be so much fun. But if you're a family person, I mean, this is a hard business to be in. It's a hard business to make a living at. And then you don't have people that don't really understand the business. So some people are at home raising the kids and they think you're just out having a great time, and it creates problems for the family, and it's tough.
Wow.
When it's not so fucking easy.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not. Give me a second, let me regroup myself.
But the statement here is, the first I have to say is, I can, so now I can.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is making a mental decision. I'm not talking to anybody else. I'm talking literally to every single person that needs the reinforcement, because you need your own reinforcement. All these other people fucking giving you a hand, slap on the back and saying you're doing fucking great is not enough.
They're not helping.
Right. Well, support is great. This is one of the reasons why you know me not to be the one that goes, oh, you did such a great job, boom, 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 boom. And I dissect. And I say, how can you do it better?
Yeah.
This is part of my makeup, right? So this statement right here, at first I have to say I can. So now I can. Great. Now that that's over with, being noticed will come with time. They won't have any way of not noticing when I am the best. They'll recognize me for what I've done and what I am capable of doing. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? But that's the statement that I was looking for when I was poking around earlier. Mm-hmm. And really, that was the part that I really wanted to say, is that you have to make a mental decision in yourself, and you have to believe in yourself, and you can't worry about what everybody else thinks and worry about what everybody else says you can and can't do. Because I've had so many people tell me, "Oh, you're doing great." So if I stopped every single time somebody said I did great, I said, "Well, I'm doing good enough. They all think I'm doing good enough."
Where the hell would you be now?
Exactly.
Damn.
Where would you be right now? Because I would have stopped a long time ago.
Damn.
Because I've had the cheerleaders, you know what I mean? But the cheerleaders aren't the people that really keep you going. The cheerleaders have their own program. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was a damn good part 1.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I'm sorry I couldn't push that through. My writing is so bad I can't read my own writing.
That's okay. It's all good.
I need some fucking glasses.
Most men have horrible handwriting, but as we've learned, you're one of the players on the field. I'm one of the most horrible handwriting
people on this side of the earth.
Yeah. But you're a player on the field, and you kept pushing. Yeah. So I feel like this is a great way to end part 1 and for us to kind of wrap this up. Mm-hmm. And then in part 2, we can talk about all of the games that you've gotten to play. Now that we have a little bit of a backstory. So, Thank you so much for coming on URL versus IRL, Dad.
Wow. We've been doing this for a minute. I just look at the clock. Damn, I could talk.
Yes, you can. That's why we're going right into part 2. So take a break, get comfortable. Yeah. And let's roll that outro music. Are you fucking kidding me? No way. All right. Talk to you soon on the next URL versus IRL. Well, you guys, that was a long introduction, but I'm glad that we had it. This is exactly why I wanted to do this. You know how long that took us? My freaking light died. One of my lights in here in the studio died. That's how long this has been going on. But this is exactly why in the introduction of this podcast, I was saying that I feel like we need a little bit of a backstory first before we can jump into part 2 of talking to one of the most successful stuntmen that we have at this moment, okay, in the industry. Because he obviously would not be where he is today if it wasn't for all of the stuff beforehand, you know? So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of the lore. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode so far. If you did, please feel free to leave me a rating, okay? Because those are going to be helping me out quite a bit on all of the different platforms that we are available to stream on. Like I said earlier in this episode, we're available on YouTube. But you guys, seriously, thank you so much for tuning in on this Tuesday or whatever day of the week that it is for you. We release the episodes on Tuesdays, as I told you before. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I hope that you are enjoying my dad and this conversation that I'm having with him just as much as I am, because he's coming back for part 2, whether you like it or not. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about URL versus IRL of being a stunt performer in the movie industry. We're going to get into a couple more stunt stories. Those ones should be really fun, really entertaining, really exciting, and have you on the edge of your seat. So, at this point, I'm going to sign off, and I will say, I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.